Welcome. Welcome, everyone. I am Samaya Gould, MUSEA's Curatorial Director, and I would like to welcome you on behalf of MUSEA Intentional Creativity Museum to the Ritual Revealing the Hidden Self Museum Show and exhibit opening. We're very excited about this. This is going to be a chance to celebrate art, ritual, mythic storytelling, the initiatory journey to discover the hidden self, and devoted creativity and inquiry calling disparate soul elements of brave and willing artists to come out of exile and into union. This is what the Ritual 2021 Medicine Painting Journey promised to its students, and over 13 moons, guided by our very own Curator Shiloh Sophia, Curriculum Director Jennifer Owen, and Movement and Meditation Guide Cassiel Bow, all of the artists featured in the show got to experience such a journey of ritual, painting, movement, connection, and self-discovery. This exhibit is the artifact of this journey. It's really the artifact of this journey of 31 women who had their hidden self revealed to them. And there was actually more than 31, but there's 31 featured in this exhibit. And we are here to witness those 31 and the many others, I'm sure, that will feel the ripple effect of this being witnessed, who are part of the Ritual 2021 Medicine Painting class. And so we welcome you to this exhibit opening. We are so grateful that you're here to celebrate art and community with us. And with that introduction, I would love to call forward our curator, Shiloh Sophia, to talk to us about ritual and this incredible journey.
Thank you so much. Welcome everyone to this opportunity to be together and to be together in ritual. Even being here, gathering together and watching the show is a kind of a ritual. And the idea for ritual is to take our lives with such grace and sacred space that we ritualize things like having a cup of coffee or journaling or dressing for the day or painting. And it's so much has to do with intentional creativity and what intentional creativity is all about. And once you get into the lifestyle of intentional creativity, you begin to ritualize the smallest mundane of things because you recognize that all of life is sacred. So the idea of spending the entire year in ritual and inviting the community into what I do, which is to ritualize almost everything. Probably everything that I possibly can. Bring it. How can we make this more sacred? How can we call this how can we name what we're doing so that we're aware of it? It's about a level of presence, not just lighting the candle, but lighting the candle and thinking of something, not just making the food in honor of someone, not just sitting at the table, but acknowledging the table. Like this is a lifestyle, a way that is very near and dear to my heart. So taking the adventure of having it was over 100 people join me to practice that and to explore the area around their home and their relationship with what Dr. Martin Shaw calls the hidden twin. This idea that there's a part of you that's always waiting for you and is looking for you in, little cafes and bars and on the street corners, and they've stolen your blue sweater and they're waiting to give it back to you, waiting for you to pay attention. And this idea of what happens in our lives, what kind of a restless wildness is going to happen if the hidden twin gets invited to the party, if the hidden twin gets to get included. And we didn't deal as much with ideas of shadow, although I know that that's a popular way of working with that hiddenness. But because it's so popular, people think of it a particular way. The hidden twin has some aspects of shadow, but it's really something else. And of course, I couldn't define that for anyone, but wanted to invite people to explore that for themselves and see is it possible to bring this forth? To what degree? To see what gets revealed and then integrate it in the day-to-day, the part of ourselves what we've been perhaps neglecting. So quite an adventure, always surprising. My painting is behind me there. And oh, I love it. This, from my view, the little stars between the two are sparkling. So a delight to see what arises and to what I'll talk about this more after the show, but what when I watched the preview of the show, what really stirred me and brought me to tears was the level of message and content. Because in addition to the painting and the inquiry and tracking the moons and the seasons and all that's happening around you, everyone was invited from the beginning to work on a myth. And after each painting episode, we're invited to really write a story that arose from the perspective of the painting. And we took a very unique style of working with myth and then piecing pieces together. What goes first? What happens next? What is the meaning? And what is the myth for the future that you're telling with this revealing of this hidden self? So I'm grateful just to be with all of you. We're going to watch the show in just a moment, but I'd love for everyone just to take a moment to breathe and just to allow yourself to land in the space with me and Amber and all of the ritual students who are present and the entire community. Just allowing yourself to become relaxed and present in this moment as we imagine that we are in the MUSEA. We are at the doors of the MUSEA. This is the Museum of Museums because it's one of many. I invite you to imagine the doors of MUSEA whatever way you want. Like imagine the doors of MUSEA any way you want. And if you think about ritual and sacred practice, maybe you'll just see these doors appear in front of you. I invite you to see those doors, and I invite you to imagine that the doors are magically opening and you're entering into a sacred space. Maybe it's indoor, outdoor. Who knows? There could be trees and birds and fountains. Whatever it is that you see, help us create this virtual yet very energetic quantum space so that we can watch the show. And as you watch, hold that awareness in a ritualistic sense that we are indeed together at the museum. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad each one of you is here.
Thank you, Shiloh. And without further ado, we are going to share with you the ritual Revealing the Hidden Self exhibit presentation.
MUSEA Intentional Creativity Museum is honored to present Ritual, Revealing the Hidden Self group exhibit. This exhibit features paintings from practicing students of our Ritual 2021 year-long medicine painting course. This course was designed by myself, Shiloh Sophia, along with Jennifer C. Owen in visual journaling and Cassiel Bull with movement. Throughout this year-long journey, many teachings, practices, and inquiries informed the making of art and story. As each one of our students was invited to discover a new arising myth that would be revealed from the art process itself, called intentional creativity. We explored diverse topics like learning to live from love, catalyze by paying attention to day-to-day ritual as well as the environment, Every student was invited to explore 2 miles around their home and pay attention to the trees, rocks, sky, and creatures there. We were inviting ourselves to engage in the archetypal potential of what it means to be the healed healer. We also practiced personal healing through medicine painting, which is basically creating with an intent to heal. Each one of us engaged in writing a mythical tale, a legend, which was designed from our relationship with ourselves and the self that is hidden, what is sometimes called the hidden twin. We also worked on integrating that hidden self into our day-to-day lives, taking risks and seeing what would happen when the self we know and the self we don't know come together to speak story and image. Yet not everything was focused on the imaginary. We dove into the mystery and beliefs about life itself and the world. But instead of going to heaven, up, and down into the underworld, we traveled across what we called the Orbis Imaginalis. We went left to right, exploring the spaces on either side of us instead of the descent and ascent model. We went to places we hadn't seen before. In this journey, our mythic imagination was sparked to a new level because we weren't only on a creative spiritual path that included meditation, movement, and mindfulness, but we were also exploring our relationship with the myth we tell ourselves about ourselves and how that myth relates to life's great unfolding myth. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for witnessing that beautiful exhibition. In the chat, people are saying potent beauty, precious, incredible. I have shivers. I love them all, so powerful and intimate, in awe. Warms my heart and I feel emotion bubbling up. What an incredible vision. So moved by the raw beauty here. I am speechless. Stunning beauty, strong medicine, breathtaking, holy wow. My hair stood on end for each new image. The goddess is singing. Tears as always. Wow, just wow. Absolutely radiant. We thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you
So,
so much.
yeah, it was so moving. Every time I see this, I have tears. Tears and deep breaths.
I feel a sense of hope looking at the images because I really feel like we need new stories. And I know that a lot of the mythologists, including Dr. Martin Shaw, who I studied for many years, there's such a call to the ancient stories, and they are important. But there's also a lot of challenges with the stories, and that we so revere them that we rarely question what might be a persistent archetypal issue that continues to recur in the old myths that we need to revisit. And so, in a way, the call to the new mythology arises from my own discomfort with the mythology of our ancestors from the past 8,000 years.
I'm thinking, I just have this little bit from Martin Shaw that I found, and I wanted to share. You're talking about stories, and it's exactly that. And he's talking about that stories worth their salt don't tell us to get cranked up with either naive hope or vinegar tinged despair. Stories tell us to keep attending to grace, keep an eye on the miraculous. It is not for us to blow the candle out, only the gods can do that. You simply don't do that as a storyteller. I just love that.
I do too.
So, keep an eye on the miraculous.
Absolutely. I love that too, about the storyteller is not going to blow out the candle, right? And that is part of the assignment. And during the ritual experience, I got to interview Dr. Martin Shaw several times for ritual and share with him what we're doing, and then really ask for his insight too on the stories of the future and the relationship of the new stories with the stories of old. And we even had some dialogues about some of the issues that I have with the stories that we adore, like the Selkie woman. If you haven't read the story of the Selkie woman, it ends like so many, where in the end, the wild one, the one who left the wild to become domesticated, leaves. She leaves her child. And I'm always like, wait a minute, there's got to be another way. We have to change the end of the story. And Dr. Shaw's like, no, you can't change the end of the story. I'm like, I'm changing the end of the story because the Selkie women I know go back for their children and negotiate. The Selkie women I know have a relationship with not just leaving, but finding a way to be in both worlds. And that's part of the new mythology that we're exploring in intentional creativity, is finding a way to be in both worlds without having to eliminate or annihilate. And they say to me, oh, well, you take it too literally. And I say, no, you don't take it literally enough. Do you know how many Selkie women and men I know who leave and don't return? We need to tell the rest of the story.
Yeah, we need to tell the rest of the story. We need to be able to retell stories without consequence as well. without the dogma of story needing to continue in a certain vein. So thank you for this invitation, Shiloh, that you created for all of the students in the ritual experience to work with story in a totally new way for them and for us. You can feel it in the paintings. You can feel new stories coming through.
Can you believe the content? I mean, that was this morning watching it again as Amber was doing her finishing touches. It's like, oh my gosh, you don't know what all the stories are, although you can read many of them on the exhibit page and see what arose for people. But I really felt the power and the imagery and the symbology of the stories coming through as if, and I asked everyone to take it really seriously. Like, what if the myth that you're going to tell is the myth we actually need to break the cycle that we're in now and create a new emergence? Like, what if you treated it that way? What if you acted like it was that important? How different would it be? If this was a magnum opus, if this was a great work, how would it be different? And how can we treat this with such gravity, and I'll even say severity? I mean, I'm pretty severe about this practice. This is a practice like martial arts or Zen or, any spiritual tradition. Like, I'm severe about this is important. This is legitimate work. This is a creative spiritual practice that changes our lives. None of us who engaged in this will ever think the same about our own mythology, about ritual, and about that part of ourselves that was hidden, who hopefully is now living in us in a more conscious way.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. I'm thinking of Martin Shaw's words again when he said that good storytellers are not spell makers, but they're spell breakers.
That's right.
And so I am feeling the spell breaking that has happened for probably so many of you who went through this experience. And Shiloh, do we want to share the exhibit page with them to give them a little walkthrough of?
I would love that. I would love that. I'm so proud of what we're doing at the museum. I feel like a proud mama of this virtual baby of the museum. It feels like, oh, I'm just so excited about what we've been able to do. I almost can't believe it. If you could imagine, in beginning of January 2020, this didn't even exist. And so the care that the curatorial team takes and works together to collaborate with our education team to bring you something like this, and then the way that the work is presented. It's not a slideshow, right? It's not just a movie. It's actually presented in this context. If you were in the museum, if you were in the building, there would be things to read and videos to watch and places to sit and places to comment. And so as much as possible, we love to make these pages, which are a complete act of devotion, primarily by Amber and her team of co-curators, so that the place that the exhibit lives has a home. So I would love for us to share.
Okay, well, let's take them home to where ritual, revealing the hidden self, lives. Okay, and I am going to just turn myself off here for a sec so I can narrate this. Okay, so this is the exhibit page that lives on imusea.org at imusea.org/exhibit/ritual. This is our opening, and I just want to give credit to Jennifer Owen for this incredible image that we are using for our opening ritual graphic. That is her painting there, that is also found in the gallery. And we start with an opening quote from Dr. Martin Shaw because his work really had such an impact and an influence on this entire ritual journey over 13 moons in 2021. And we also have a graphic here from Moana Watu and her painting, Remember Me. This is about the exhibit where you will hear you'll read some words from Shiloh that are a reflection of the experience of ritual and more nuance, more context into what the students actually experienced. You heard it at the opening of the exhibit presentation, and we've included it here again for you to reread or reconsider and really think about the journey that you are on when you're painting for 13 moon cycles with one dedicated group of people, and just truly how potent and powerful that is. It's like, I would call it an initiation of sorts, a chosen initiation. And a chosen initiation is oftentimes a lot better than one you don't choose. So if you want to choose an initiation, maybe something like ritual is a great idea. And we have the images of our students once again. This is from the closing call of ritual. And Shiloh at her canvas. So one of the wonderful things about the year-long painting journeys with Shiloh is the videos that Shiloh makes of the process. And they're so honest and raw, and they're teachings, they're instructions, but they're also almost like a guided journey in and of themselves, these videos. And this is a little snippet of Shiloh demonstrating from one of the ritual teaching videos. And Shiloh, did you want to tell them about this next part, about the possibility of ritual being open for enrollment soon?
Yes, absolutely. Amber mentioned to me just today, like, can ritual be a self-study? And we are opening it as a self-study in about a month from now. So about mid-April, you'll be able to sign up, and I'm sure there'll be a group of people going through with you, and then be able to receive support in the salon. So be self-study. It took us a whole year, a whole 13 moons, but someone could go more quickly if they wanted to. And this is also one of our courses that has a pretty rigorous syllabus, because this course is eligible for university education credits that we're working on right now. We don't have approval yet, but it's designed for that. So this was the first class that we did with that intention. So if you feel like looking at these paintings, you want to take this journey yourself, you'll be able to do that in mid-April. And I feel like it is one of my favorite classes. Maybe I say that every time. I don't know. This is so good. I went through so much in this year. This was a life-changing year for me. But the painting literally held everything. And it just, every time I do a year-long process, I'm like, oh, right. I mean, this is what's possible when we're going through such change, that we have some place to put all the changes. So if you want to paint with us, you are more than welcome.
That's wonderful. Thank you. It's exciting to be able to, again, like I said, choose an initiatory journey in paint, and ritual is definitely an incredible one. So here we have our exhibit media section, and this is where the exhibit presentation that you viewed live just now on our call will be hosted. And after the museum show completes today, we will also be putting the recording of the museum show on the page so that you can watch the museum show again, or if you would like to share it with friends or family, you could sit down and have a little artist date, watch the museum show with them, go through the exhibit and the gallery. How fun would that be? If you invited a couple of friends over and you said, hey, I'm going to show you this museum show, and we're going to watch we're going to go through this beautiful gallery and talk about the paintings, and that can be in and of itself an amazing thing to do. So making some suggestions, because I think now in this digital space that we live in, we can be really creative with how we engage with art. So here we have the gallery, and the gallery is where all of the images that are part of the exhibit live. They have their own image space, and then they also have the writing associated with the painting. Now, we do have PDFs that are coming in the next 24 hours. We had to find just the right way to get them on the page, but some of the students requested that they wanted to share the myth. And the myth, some of them they are stories. They're multiple pages. Sometimes they're 11 pages, 20 pages, 30 pages. There are these incredible outpourings of creative narrative dialogue that come from the painting, and we wanted to include those. So those are going to be a part of the exhibit very, very soon. And you'll likely see a button under those paintings that do have a PDF myth associated with them that says read the myth. So you'll have an opportunity to dive a little deeper with these. And these are, of course, the incredible, incredible pieces of art from the show with all of the writing included. I'm just going to scroll through, give you a little reconnection with the images you saw in the presentation. They're just so amazing. Truly, truly. We do really encourage you to treat this as something sacred, something valuable, something you want to give your attention to. Maybe sit down with a cup of tea and make a point of reading what the artists have shared from their heart, from their soul, about this painting, about this journey. All of the writings I had a chance to read, and they're so inspiring. Even the writings will bring you to tears, the best kind of tears, I promise. So again, we have our beautiful images. Some of them include poems. But as you can see, you'll have this amazing, amazing spaciousness to scroll through every single image and really spend time with it. And that is the purpose of these exhibit pages, is to honor this work with a permanent place, with a place in perpetuity that you can always come back to, and that the artists can share with their friends, their families, their communities, and you as well. Okay, so we'll scroll a little bit faster here. Some of these images are just so striking. And then towards the bottom of the page, we'll get there shortly, we also have a video that is connected with Shiloh's work. We are getting there. Okay. So we do have a special video here too from Shiloh called Cloud Clan, which is her sharing her own myth of her painting and a story. It's kind of a story time with that. So you can also spend some time with that video, which is a live storytelling with Shiloh. And we also have, it's more than a land acknowledgement. It's acknowledging all of the lands and the invitation that ritual provided, that Shiloh and the ritual team provided for each one of the students to connect more intimately and with deeper awareness to the lands that they find themselves living in. I think Shiloh said it was a 2-mile radius. Is that right, Shiloh?
I can't remember if I said 2 or 2.5 miles now, but we looked at. I invited everyone to look at the map of where they are, an aerial view, and really see the 2 to 2.5 miles around where their home was, where their studio was, and get familiar with that area. It's a big part of the process to like be at home and have your energy and awareness and relationship with rock, tree, sky, creature, and to walk in that space and let that be part of a ritual. And then also inform your painting process as well. And for me, I also painted my family's migration out of Africa 80,000 years ago, out of the area of Ethiopia. I put it in my painting with red ochre. So I not only worked with right where I was living, but also with ancestral lineage home.
Yeah, and this is I would say, I think I'm speaking for most of us who are on this team and a part of this work, that being in connection and reciprocity with the earth, with the lands that we live on, with the indigenous peoples that are stewards of the land, it is such an important part of our personal work, of our personal care. And it's also, it comes into our artwork. So the art itself includes elements of the land, and it includes that honoring, and it includes that connection or reconnection or deepening intimacy that we're experiencing with our connection to place. And this is probably one of the most beautiful parts that I have found in our community, is that we can work together for regeneration and for healing and for reconnection. And we can be the restorer species. And that's a really big part of the ethos around here. And so it is included in a lot of our painting processes, and I hope that you will get a sense of that when you spend time with the images and notice the many, many elements of earth, flora, fauna, animals, rocks, creatures, and the honor that's given to those things that sustain us. So we complete our exhibit with another quote from Martin Shaw. I really love this one. The wild twin rolls the dice a little. Without eros, without risk, there's no culture worth making. So this is dangerous business, calling out to these brooding, exiled energies. But truth be told, and nailed to the tavern wall, it's far, far more dangerous not to. I just love the way that he incites with his words. And that is our exhibit. We've got the thank yous at the bottom. And we also have another invitation to paint with Shiloh, as there is another medicine painting journey starting in May called Temple. And we're going to share some links about that, but there's some information at the bottom of the exhibit as well for those who are moved and know that, you know what, it's time. I'm ready to do some medicine painting myself. Well, here is something you can do right away. So that is the exhibit. Thank you so much for letting me take a few moments to share this with you. And it has been shared in the chat, I believe. So you'll have the link, and it will be also shared widely in all of our social media channels tomorrow, and it will be accessible through our front page of imusea.org. So you'll have the chance to go back to it and enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you for the witness.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Amber, for that beauty that you created. And I just really want to encourage all of the people whose paintings are included to really have it be a part of your legend that you are in a museum show. This isn't pretend. This is the real deal. And you are a part of a museum. And this isn't important. It's a very important part of our work. And although we work with all genders at MUSEA, we know that, 50% of the world's artists are women, and that by and large, less than 2 to 3% are represented in exhibit spaces. It's one of those ratios that continues to shock, where the disparity is so huge. It's so striking, and it's curious, and it's part of our vision here at MUSEA to, shift that percentage inside of our community so that we can be a part of restoring justice.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think we have a couple of ritual students here today who wanted to share a little bit about their experience. And I believe we have Sheila Saffer with us. Did you want to come up and share with us about your ritual experience and being a student of this incredible journey? There she is. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I am so honored to be here today. Wow, what a show. Yes, I'm just so honored. So what I want to say is it really was transformational for me. So my story myth turned out to be, and my painting turned out to be a creation story. And it was both my own personal creation story, and it felt like a cosmic creation, archetypal cosmic creation story. And what I love seeing when I look at the show is how many of the images that came through my painting I also saw in other paintings, because it is archetypal and because it's in the field. It's like these messages are in the field coming through, and they're coming through more than one of us. And so I love seeing that. It feels so affirming to me. And your question, Shiloh, that blew me away at the time, and yet hearing it again is so powerful when you said, what if your story was, what if it actually could change the world? This story that you are telling could actually do that. And so what I want to say is that in my very last sentence of my story, I want to share it with you because that's how it feels. It feels like, yeah, that's exactly what it's about. Is nothing short of that. So the very last sentence in my story is, now it is up to you to share your story with others, and together you will bring into being the new earth. Yeah, that's what we need to do. So I'm so honored to be part of this process in bringing together the new earth with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's here right now. I mean, that's what I want to say, right? It's like there's so much we're waiting for to change, but in your painting, in your story, in each painting, in each story, we're we're a part of Earth, and it's in us, right? So how can we? I know you know this. How can we hold this as real now, while the awareness of the work that is to be done? Because if we're Earth, and each one of us has this in us, this awareness of where we are, can it exist simultaneously? And I believe it must.
Yeah, this to me always feels like the witness of that reality that we know is here. Um, I think that's why for me it's so moving every time I put these shows together. You know, I'm working in the background and putting these images and these words and witnessing them in a different way because I get to be super intimate with it. Is I feel like I'm seeing the thing that I know in my heart is real. The world that I know in my heart is real. That doesn't always get reflected back to me when I look around in my own culture, my own society. But here or in these spaces, in these art inspired, heartfelt spaces where we're very honest and we're really coming from our deepest truth when it opens something up in us. And here I feel that witness, and it makes me, honestly, it makes me feel less crazy, more sane, because this is the reality. This is the reality that I want to call reality. So thank you for being a part of that. I think I think Milagros wanted to share something. Are you still there?
Yes, I am here.
Hey,
Hey.
welcome, Milagros. Let's spotlight Milagros. Milagros is, oh my goodness, she's a prolific painter. She is our Intentional Creativity Foundation Vice President of Programming, and she is a ritual student. So, what's on
Yes,
your
I
heart?
am. Yes, thank you. So I did not submit, but I am a student. And I guess maybe I didn't think mine was complete. But witnessing everyone who did submit during the 13 months was just more than my pleasure. And I just want to bring presence to the fact that when you create, even though you're on your own journey, you are impacting everyone that witnesses you. And I received so much medicine from just seeing each one. And I'm looking forward to going back to the exhibit page to spend time with every painting. Mine went through so many transformations. If you follow my feed, you'll see that it was full of color and everything. And then I took Shiloh's Dare and went with the black glaze. And that particular being here, being Dish to My Hidden Self, she started off being kind of Afrocentric when I started. Actually, it was um, I was influenced by is escaping me the Egyptian queen.
The Egyptian queen.
Yes,
Oh my goodness.
Nefertiti.
Nefertiti. Yeah.
Cleopatra?
Cleopatra.
Oh.
Cleopatra was my original connection, but as I went to change her, um, she became this Taino priestess. And just witnessing that, that transformation, it just really, really was powerful for me to surrender to the process, not knowing and just being open to everything and witnessing all your journeys and how your paintings have transformed to these utter just pieces of beauty and soul and heart and healing. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Milagros. I look forward to seeing it when you feel complete because it's
Yes.
incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, y'all, we did a black glaze, hashtag black glaze. Woo!
Yes, and I think we had one more hand up from Kelly House.
And Kristen also wanted to share, Amber.
Okay. Kelly, I think she disappeared though. Oh, there she is. Okay.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
Hello. I put my hand down, so that's probably why I disappeared.
Oh.
I stopped for a little bit during the process and I felt really scattered for afterwards. And then I started going again and I just became more clear, calmer. It's hard to describe, I guess, because I have anxiety, you know, the level of self-regulation and even just coming on and doing this, you know, my heart races, but I'm able to step in and sit in front of however many people, whereas I wouldn't have been able to do this earlier. So that when I say it's transformational, life transformational, that piece of it alone is amazing. The story and the myths that came out for me were, and I'm still writing out the longer version of it, but that piece of just not realizing how much of an impact the story that came out for me was, how far back it went, how deep rooted, how it was built into everything around me, however way it was, you know, a book here, a conversation there. So the transformation was just phenomenal. So I thank the process, and anybody that's called to do it, I welcome it, and it's awesome. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Thanks for being a part of it.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. And we have time for a couple more shares. We'll hear from Lenny, and then after from Virginie. So Lenny, if you want to unmute yourself and we can bring you up.
Yes, thank you. Hi, I'm delighted to. I want to thank you all. Thank you both. It was amazing to see. This was my very first time painting. I have never painted before. And what when I was writing a brief information about how did this journey start, the message that came through was when the brush tip touched the canvas and color spilled out, my mind began unraveling in the stream of my heart. And that was a steady experience. So I felt like Shiloh's cues all along the way kept opening different doors. And I made a my intention was to just be attentive to what was arising on the canvas. And so I've never drawn creatures or beings, nor would I have ever thought they would come up. But as I was doing my process, you know, in the very center of my screen was something that was troubling me. And as I began tending it and working with it, it was like, oh, this is a salamander. And then other beings kept arising, water serpents, squid, etc. And then as I began to watch and as this myth unfolded, each of these beings that had arisen had a message for me. And what was also interesting is that we usually, you know, Shiloh had said we were talking about this journey over the Orbis Imaginalis. And so at first I thought, oh, in this journey, I will make this movement with my wild twin, who I am now one with, and it would lead to the next. But what I found was, as I visited each creature or being that had appeared, they had a message for me, which automatically, with no time at all, brought me to the next place. So it was very interesting that it wasn't a circuitous journey over land, but it led to the next level and the next level and the next level. So it was a really great experience. And I have to just thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful to have your painting in the show, Lenny. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing your insights of your journey with us too. Really, really wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, I say it's as, you know, as high as you can get without imbibing anything at all, because you are journeying, you are, you know, on this journey. And what Lenny mentioned about the Orbis Imaginalis, it was like one of these interesting moments where I thought about the whole idea of as above, so below, and up and down, and heaven and the underworld, and just all the worlds. And all of a sudden, I was like, wait a minute, we have got to look left to right. What is over there that we're not looking at? This span of like, and spiritually, we're so into this polarity of above and below. Really, we're so ingrained in it. It's across all traditions. But this idea of asking our consciousness to not do that, don't go up and don't go down, go across. It's like a whole other, there's like a whole other spaciousness that's there that we haven't been cueing into. And so the Orbis Imaginalis was the framework that I invited everybody to explore, looking for information this way instead of this way. So it seems subtle on the one hand. On the other hand, it's a pretty distinct kind of looking. So.
And we have Virginie. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Hi, yes, you do. Okay, so oh, what an extraordinary journey! Once again, I'm so used to it, and each time it's such new. It's so new. It's each time I'm in wonder always, and what I'm in wonder is specifically, and that helps me a lot in the process is the timing, because I see a lot of people saying, "Hey, I'm late," and all. For me, I realized that there is never late. It's always the right timing. The last year I traveled many times to France, so I couldn't keep up as I would have liked to, but I just kept my connection to my painting. And each time I would come up, it was the right time and the right moment for me to go to the next step. And this is what is the most, so I could relax, because I've learned this over the years, over doing the process. I always know the timing. If it's not now, it's because it's not now. It will be at its own time. And up to the point that when I submitted my painting, so in March, because actually I almost missed the date, the deadline. But then I realized there was a symbol, there was like a scepter that I had in my painting. And yes, I knew what it, well, I had the symbol and what it meant for me. But then at this precise moment, at the beginning of March, it took a whole new meaning, and I had to change it. I had to make it like a flower of light. It was no more a scepter, it was holding my light. And I'm so moved just saying it, because the title changed and the whole painting took a new meaning with what I'm living presently, what the world is going on presently, and what I know what my place in the world is presently. And what is my light, and the connection with this little girl, this child of light, which was the golden child, who is holding my gift, and what in my heart, my gift of painting, what I love to do, and everything connected in between each other, just because of this symbol of the specter, of the scepter that turned into a light. And everything had a new meaning, and I felt that my painting was complete now. So it's just so amazing. I'm just so in awe of all this, and it's like magic. It's magic when we allow the time, and just to know that everything comes in its own way. So I just want to say that, and thank you again, Shiloh. Thank you for all the team. Each time it's so enriching, and I just love it. That's it. I just love it. Thank you
so much. Seeing your painting today, I just was brought to tears. I was just like, there she is, because we've been painting together for probably 9 years. And so, it never gets old. I'll just say, like, I'm never not amazed at what happens. It's real life, it's real life happening. And as many of you know, both of my parents and our elder Carmen walked into their future in this year that this painting was created. And so they're all in the painting, the record is in the painting, and it's held inside the painting. And the entire process for ritual was designed while I was with my mother for the last time. right? Really making the graphics, making the designs, and thinking about this. And I read The Wild Twin to her when we were together in December of 2020. So, you know, it's a way to live life. You know, I keep saying it's not a style of art, it's a lifestyle. And it truly is. And I currently we're opening our gallery on Friday, and the show is primarily the paintings, these year-long paintings that I've been doing for over 9 years. And it is my practice. And I'm so grateful that so many of you look to this practice as well, because it's such a joy to journey with you this way. It truly is.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. These experiences always fill our hearts up, and they honor and they please our muse to no end. And so this is a great way to be in community. It's a great way to be online in community. It's probably one of my favorite, that we get to be at the museum having what I like to call an artist date, what Julia Cameron likes to call an artist date, together to celebrate art and to celebrate each other and to celebrate the beauty of life. And so I want to thank you again and welcome you to unmute yourself as we move towards saying our goodbyes. Unless Shiloh, did you have anything else you wanted to say before we move to close?
I was just going to tell a tiny fox woman story as the very last thing.
Okay, you do that. Let's spotlight Shiloh and let her story tell us out.
So before I begin, I just want to invite all of you to just become present to the myths and the stories that shaped your life and how they've informed you. And whether those were comic book characters or myths of the ancient world, I just invite you to think about whether it was Little Red Riding Hood or Cinderella or the Selkie story or the Red Shoes or Wonder Woman or Catwoman. Like, just think for a moment about some of the myths that have shaped your life and just ponder for a moment how they've impacted you. And this is a conversation I love to have with our community, and that I also love to have with Trish O'Malley, who I really want to acknowledge as one of the we had an incredible team who was creating this support space. And these are the kinds of things that we get into, y'all. I mean, we get into, like Trish and I have gone back and forth about Fox Woman. You need friends you can go back and forth about Fox Woman with. Trish, you want to say hello? Because you were the badass. You're the badass who helped hold space for this.
Hello, everybody. I had an experience watching these paintings that I got to witness of having chills, but they were in my low back and my belly, and I've never before in my life felt that. And I think that having a sensation in my body that felt brand new, I mean, you can get all body ones, but to have them in a specific place is part of a new story. And I thank you all so much for that. Yeah, you got to be able to like have some arguments about the stories and the discomfort and where the skins go and who the bad guy is, or if there is one. And as you were talking about looking left to right, as we all did in this process, I just kept thinking, well, almost every mom tells you look both ways, and she's not talking about up and down.
That's Trish, that's brilliant. I love it. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Look both ways. And you're right. And you're brilliant for seeing that it's a big key, Shiloh, to how the stories keep going and we've missed some pieces. And you can go on the brilliant thing about the 2 miles or the 2.5, and I was trying to remember too, I can't remember which my map is of. I can go to the edges in different spots, but I can't tell you either, is that you can go the same route home and someday you're going to notice something you've never seen before.
Totally.
Eyes open, look both ways. And there's the same thing happens with the stories and the canvases. And so blessed to be here. Thank you so much, Shiloh, for this brilliant process.
Thank you so much, Trish. It's always, we are not for the faint of heart, as they say. We are, I know, heavy duty isn't the right word. That's like a word from my mother's generation, but there's a sense of gravity to what we do. And you need people like the teams that we have, like Trish, to be able to hold the ground as we're moving along. So yeah, gravitas indeed. So I just want to, as you're holding this idea of the story, I'm just inviting you all as a ritual to play with how that story has shaped your life. And, I definitely, with Wonder Woman's magic lasso of truth telling, I mean, that's what I do, right? Like, me, that's me right there. Like, that has shaped my life. And it's interesting, though, because it also shapes your beliefs and your ideas about justice and your ideas about magic and your ideas about your superpowers and what's possible. So I want to just close with a very brief but Shilohized version of the Fox Woman. So there's a hunter, and he is kind to the creatures. He lives in the deep, deep forest, and one day when he's heading home, he smells the smoke from his own fire. He starts rushing toward the house and sees that there's smoke in the chimney, and indeed there's someone moving inside. He approaches very cautiously to behold a woman with red hair cascading down her back. This woman is none other than Fox Woman. He knows immediately that this is a grace, but he is wise enough as a man of the forest to also know that danger could be afoot. Well, she prepares a meal of meals, and let's just say there was a fox tumbling about in the house of the hunter that night. They found some domestic bliss, y'all. They found some ways of being together. And each day when he would come home, she would have this meal, and it was delightful for many, many moons. And then something started to happen, and this happens sometimes in long-term relationships where you suddenly start to notice the way that your beloved is chewing their food. You're like, wish they would keep their mouth closed. Or you suddenly notice that the smell of their pajamas, like, have they washed those pajamas lately? Or you suddenly start to think the snoring isn't so sweet anymore. Or you start to have these thoughts about what is happening with that person. Well, such a thing started to happen with Fox Woman. Now, we all know that this happens in our marriages and our long-term relationships. That familiarity starts to create what? I don't know exactly what it is, but let's just say that the hunter suddenly became very aware of how very wild and pungent his beloved was. Now, when she would go to bed, she would take off her fox pelt. So it wasn't like he was having to have his face up in the fur all the time, although that used to be his favorite thing. He used to love to have his face in the fur, but then again, things start to change. So the pelt is on the hook. But the smell of it it feels like it gets into him, and he's out in the forest and he feels like he has the smell of the fox on him, and he decides he's going to mention it, and he feels a little trepidation about it, but he just can't help it anymore because it's just driving him crazy. And he's like, honey, would you mind just perhaps putting the pelt outside at night? It's lovely and all, but it's really taking up a lot of space in our life right now. And she listens, but she says nothing. but we all know what she was thinking. Well, they go on for a while more, and she continues to be who she is, because that is who she is, and that's all that she can and should be. She's also aware, she's hip to the trip of what happens when you've stayed too long with the hunter. And then one night, after he's had a bit of whiskey, he starts speaking without boundaries about what it's like to have this wildness in his life. And if she could just contain it a little bit more, and if she could just groom herself just a little bit more, and if she could just, and of course, she says nothing. But the next day when he comes home, there is no fire. There is no meal. And he knows, he's like, oh my gosh, it's like he was in his own spell. He knows, he's like, oh my gosh, he recognizes what's happened, and she's gone. And he's searching for her scent everywhere, but it's gone. And that is the story of the fox woman, as it has been told by various tellers throughout the world. But I wonder if this is where the story ends, because I don't believe that it is. And Dr. Shaw says to me, don't ever change the end of that story. And I said, well, I'll do the best I can, but I probably will. And so I invite you to imagine with me one moon after the fox woman has re-entered the forest, and she's telling the story to all of her other foxy sisters about the prowess, about the relationship, about how silly and funny and cute and sometimes mean the hunter is. And the hunter, well, he is lamenting because not only can he find nothing to catch, he's completely miserable, he's losing weight, he actually becomes a vegan. It's just a devastating move for a hunter, a lifelong hunter. He doesn't have the heart for it anymore. He starts to become a gardener. Fox woman and her foxy sisters are listening at the edge of the garden. They're seeing the changes in the countenance of the hunter, and they come up with an idea. And it takes another moon or two for him to pine for her, and her actually to pine for him. And while there were many other wild ones in the forest that she could tumble with, she had a thing for this hunter turned gardener. And so her and her sisters dream up a plan. It's a plan that meets in the middle, where she would go to find the hunter and speak to him of a meeting in the middle place, where once a moon, for 13 times in a cycle of a year, they would come together and enjoy each other's company. But they would each be in their own domains, not domesticating one another, neither her him or him her. She lives her wild life and he lives his tended life, but they find each other under the full moon. Perhaps that's another way to end the story. And so we do. Thank you, everyone. Blessings.
Thank you for being here, all. You're welcome to unmute yourselves and say
I
your
love it.
cacophonous goodbyes.
Yes.
I love the
I
new
love
story
it.
ending.
Yes.
Yay!
Beautiful.
Love it.
Beautiful,
Beautiful.
Shiloh.
Thank you so
Everyone.
much.
Beautiful show,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Congratulations.
Good show.
Thank you.
Great show. Great show.
Thank you, Amber.
The show was amazing. Thank you for all the sharing.
Beautiful.
Grateful to be a part of it.
Thank you for your painting. It was amazing.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you.